The crystal chamber on Nexus Prime stretched higher than most buildings on Earth. 47 different alien species sat in their special seats, each one designed for their unique bodies. Some had 4 arms, others had no arms at all. Some breathed air, others needed special tanks of gas around their heads. But they all had one thing in common today. They were all staring at the single human standing in the center of the room. Hyunwoo adjusted his simple black suit and looked around the chamber without any fear in his eyes. He had been Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council for 3 years now. In that time, he had watched these aliens debate everything from trade routes to which planets could mine certain metals. Today was different. Today, they were here to talk about war. Chancellor Vextar rose from his seat at the highest point in the chamber. The Chancellor looked like a giant lizard that someone had taught to wear fancy clothes. His scales were dark, green, and his eyes were the color of old blood. When he spoke, a small machine translated his words into the common galactic language that everyone could understand. "We are here today to discuss the human problem," the Chancellor said. His voice echoed through the chamber like thunder. "The humans have been spreading across our galaxy for 30 years. They build colonies on worlds that do not belong to them. They trade with species without permission from this council. They act as if they have the right to go anywhere they want." Hyunwoo listened without changing his expression. He had expected this. Earth had been waiting for this moment for a very long time. "The humans are dangerous," continued a delegate from the hegemony. "This alien looked like a giant insect with too many legs. They learn too fast. They adapt too quickly. They make friends with species that should be under our control." Another alien stood up. This one was tall and thin like a tree, with skin that looked like bark. "The humans give technology to primitive worlds. They teach them things they should not know. This disrupts the natural order of the galaxy." Hyunwoo almost smiled at that. The natural order. These aliens had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years by keeping other species weak and dependent. They called it order, but humans had a different word for it. More aliens spoke. They complained about human colonies that grew too fast. They worried about human ships that could travel farther than expected. They were afraid of human ideas spreading to other species. Fear. That was what this was really about. These powerful aliens were afraid of humans, and they were too proud to admit it. Finally, Chancellor Vextar stood again. "The Galactic Council has made its decision. The human species is declared a threat to galactic stability. All human colonies outside your home system must be abandoned within 1 year. All humans living on non-human worlds must return to Earth. Any human ships found outside the Sol system after this deadline will be destroyed." The chamber fell silent. This was the moment everyone had been waiting for. The aliens expected the human ambassador to panic. They expected him to beg for mercy or ask for more time. They expected him to show fear. Instead, Hyunwoo smiled. It was not a big smile, but everyone in the chamber could see it. It was the kind of smile someone makes when they hear exactly what they expected to hear. It was the smile of someone who had been waiting for this moment and was happy it had finally arrived. The smile made the aliens uncomfortable. Some of them shifted in their seats. Others whispered to each other in their own languages. This was not the reaction they had planned. For Hyunwoo reached into his jacket and pulled out a small communication device. It was sleek and silver, much more advanced than most aliens realized. He activated it with a gentle touch of his finger. "Earth Command, this is Ambassador Hyunwoo," he said in clear, calm English. His voice carried across the chamber and beyond, traveling through space at speeds faster than light. "The Council has made their decision. Begin Operation Homecoming." The aliens did not understand what Operation Homecoming meant, but they did not like the way Hyunwoo said it. There was something in his voice that suggested he had been expecting this call for a very long time. Somewhere in the dark space beyond Pluto, Admiral Bo-Ra received the message aboard her flagship, the Soul's Pride. The ship was massive, larger than anything the aliens had ever built, but it had been hidden for years, using technology the Galactic Council did not know existed. When Bo-Ra heard Hyunwoo's words, she smiled the same smile her ambassador had worn. "All ships," she broadcast to her fleet. "You heard the man. It's time to come home." Back in the crystal chamber, Hyun-woo's aide Jin-ho stepped forward. Jin-ho was younger than his boss, but he had the same calm confidence. He leaned close to Hyun-woo and whispered, "Sir, they outnumber us 1,000 to 1. Hyun-woo put his communication device back in his jacket and looked at the assembled aliens. They were all watching him now, trying to understand what had just happened. Some of them looked confused. Others looked worried. A few looked angry that their grand declaration had not produced the fear they wanted. "Numbers," Hyun-woo said quietly to Jin-ho, but loud enough for the nearest aliens to hear, "have never been humanity's strength. Preparation has." He turned to face Chancellor Vexitar directly. The lizard-like alien was gripping the arms of his chair so tightly that his claws were leaving marks in the metal. "Chancellor," Hyun-woo said with perfect politeness, "Earth accepts your declaration of war. We thank you for finally making your intentions clear. It will make what comes next much easier for everyone." With that, Hyun-woo bowed slightly to the high chamber as if he had just finished a pleasant conversation about the weather. He turned and walked toward the exit, with Jin-ho following close behind. Their footsteps echoed in the suddenly quiet chamber. As they reached the door, Hyun-woo paused and looked back one more time. "Oh, and, Chancellor, you might want to check on your fleets. I think you'll find they have some new neighbors." The two humans left the chamber, leaving behind 47 different species of aliens who were all asking themselves the same question. What had they just done? None of them knew that humanity had been preparing for this war for 30 years. None of them realized that every human colony, every human trader, every human diplomat had been part of a single, carefully planned strategy. They thought they were declaring war on a young species that had gotten too bold. They had no idea that they had just walked into a trap that had been set before most of them were born. Dr. Soo-jin was checking the growth of alien corn when her tablet started beeping. She looked around the vast green fields of Kepler 442b and saw nothing but peaceful farmland stretching to the horizon. The blue-skinned Verdani farmers were working, in the distance, just like they did every day. Everything looked normal and quiet, but the message on her tablet was anything but normal. It was a simple code. Garden party. 2 words that Soo-jin had been waiting to see for 15 years. She walked calmly to her research station, a small building that looked like any other farm laboratory. The Verdani thought she was just another human scientist studying their crops. They had no idea what was really buried beneath their feet. Soo-jin entered her personal code into a hidden panel behind her desk. The floor began to open, revealing stairs that led deep underground. She had been the only person on this planet who knew these stairs existed. Now, as she walked down into the darkness, lights automatically turned on to show her the way. What the Verdani had never seen was a facility that stretched for miles under their farmland. Machines hummed quietly in the darkness. Machines that had been waiting for 15 years to wake up. Soo-jin reached the main control room and placed her hand on a scanner. The entire facility came to life. On the other side of the galaxy, Engineer Dong-hyun received the same message while he was inspecting mining equipment on Titan 7. To everyone around him, he was just another human worker trying to dig metals out of the ground. The rock-like aliens who owned this planet paid him well and trusted him completely. Dong-hyun smiled as he read the message. He had been pretending to be a simple engineer for 12 years. It was time to stop pretending. He walked to what looked like a broken drilling machine that had been sitting unused for months. Dong-hyun entered a code into its control panel, and the machine began to change. Parts folded out that had never been there before. Pieces that looked like scrap metal rearranged themselves into something completely different. Within minutes, the broken drill had become a massive communication array pointed at the stars. Dong-hyun activated it and sent a single message. Titan 7 is ready. Across the galaxy, similar transformations were happening on 200 different worlds. Humans who had lived quiet, peaceful lives for decades were revealing their true purpose. Onda. The resort moon of Sable 6. Comedian Min Soo had just finished making a crowd of tourists laugh with jokes about space travel. Everyone loved Min Soo. He was funny, friendly, and harmless. The entertainment complex he had built was famous across 3 star systems. When Min Soo saw the message on his personal device, he stopped laughing. He walked backstage and pressed a button hidden behind a mirror. the entire entertainment complex began to transform. The comedy theater's walls folded away to reveal a massive communications center. The dance floors opened to show antenna arrays. The restaurant kitchens turned out to be computer processing centers. Min Su's entertainment complex was actually one of the most powerful communication hubs in the galaxy. It could coordinate fleets across 3 spiral arms and send messages, faster than any government system. Similar scenes played out everywhere humans had settled. The peaceful trader Yun Seo, who had spent 20 years selling earth goods on the desert world of Kethmore, activated hidden weapon factories beneath her warehouses. The artist Kyung Ho, whose beautiful sculptures decorated the capital city of the Crystalline Empire, revealed that each statue contained quantum transmitters that had been mapping government communications for years. The pattern was the same everywhere. Every human settlement had 2 purposes. The visible purpose was always peaceful: farming, mining, trading, entertaining, teaching. The hidden purpose was always military preparation. Captain Tae-young stood on the bridge of his ship, the Busan Express. For 8 years, he had flown cargo between human colonies and alien worlds. Everyone knew him as a friendly merchant who always had fair prices and interesting stories from Earth. Now, as his ship received the activation signal, Tae-young watched his bridge transform around him. Panels that had looked like storage compartments opened to reveal military-grade weapons systems. The cargo hold reconfigured itself into a fighter bay. His crew of merchants removed their civilian clothes to reveal the uniforms of Earth's Silent Service, a military branch that officially did not exist. "Captain," said his first officer Yoonji, checking her weapons console, "all systems are online. We're ready for combat operations." Tae-young nodded and looked out at the stars. "You know, Yoonji, the hardest part of this whole mission wasn't learning to fight. It was learning to pretend we couldn't." All across the galaxy, the Galactic Council's intelligence networks were suddenly reporting impossible things. Human settlements that had been monitored for decades were revealing technology that should not exist. Peaceful farmers were activating terraforming systems that could reshape entire planets. Simple traders were deploying fleets that had somehow been hidden for years. On the water world of Aquatica, marine biologist Jun Ho had spent 10 years studying the local sea life with the native aquatic aliens. They thought he was just curious about their ocean ecology. They had no idea he had been slowly introducing modified Earth bacteria into their seas. Bacteria that would now respond to his commands and could disable any ship that tried to land. The florist, Nari, who had spent 18 years growing beautiful Earth flowers for the insect-like hive queens of Centauri 3, activated systems hidden in her greenhouse roots. The queens discovered that their entire planet was now covered with a network of plants that could detect any military movement and report it directly to Earth. Even the children were part of the plan. The human teacher Sang Woo, who had been educating young aliens on the scholarly world of Academia Prime for 15 years, revealed that his classroom was actually an intelligence gathering center. Every conversation, every cultural exchange, every friendship had been carefully documented and analyzed. As reports flooded in from across the galaxy, the Galactic Council began to understand the scope of what humanity had accomplished. This was not a few hidden weapons or secret bases. This was a complete transformation of the galactic strategic situation that had been happening right under their noses for 30 years. Every human the aliens had met, every peaceful settlement they had approved, every trade agreement they had signed had been part of a single, coordinated plan. Humanity had not been trying to join galactic civilization. They had been quietly preparing to replace it. The most shocking discovery came from the hegemony's own capital world, the human chef Wu Jin, who had been cooking in the finest restaurants. For 25 years, had been mapping every government building, every military base, and every security system. His restaurant delivery routes had given him access to places that even spies could never reach. Admiral Bo-Ra, now revealed as the Supreme Commander of Human Defense Forces, sent a message to every human cell across the galaxy. Seeds are planted. Time to grow. The galaxy was about to discover that declaring war on humanity had been the biggest mistake in galactic history. Admiral Corvin felt confident as his massive warship, the Dominator, dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Proxima Centauri system. Behind him followed 200 ships of the Galactic Fleet's first strike force. Their mission was simple: destroy the human mining operation in this system and show the galaxy what happened to species that defied the Council. Intelligence reports said Proxima Centauri contained only a small human mining base with maybe 50 workers. The asteroid field around the system's red star was supposed to be full of valuable metals that humans were stealing without permission. This would be an easy victory to start their war against Earth. "Sensors show the asteroid field ahead, Admiral," reported his communications officer. "No sign of human ships or defenses. This should be over quickly." Corvin nodded with satisfaction. Humans were supposed to be clever, but they had left their mining operation completely undefended. It would be almost too easy to destroy. The Galactic Fleet moved into the asteroid field in perfect formation. Corvin had been fighting space battles for 40 years. He knew how to position his ships to avoid enemy fire while maximizing his own weapons. Not that he expected any enemy fire from a simple mining operation. That was when the asteroids started shooting back. The first blast came from what looked like a regular space rock floating near the fleet's right side. A beam of pure energy lanced out and cut through the shields of a heavy cruiser like they were made of paper. The ship exploded in a ball of fire and metal. "What was that?" Corvin shouted. "Where did that shot come from?" Before anyone could answer, dozens more energy beams erupted from asteroids all around the fleet. Ships began exploding on all sides. The asteroids that had looked like harmless rocks were revealing themselves as heavily armed fortresses. Colonel Sang-Ho watched the Galactic Fleet's confusion from inside Asteroid Base 7. For 5 years, he had lived on this rock disguised as a mining supervisor. The aliens had inspected his mining operation 3 times and never suspected that they were looking at one of the most advanced military bases humans had ever built. "All bases, this is 7, Sang-Ho spoke into his communication system. "Target. Priority is their command ships. Make them hurt." 43 hidden bases throughout the asteroid field opened fire at once. Each asteroid had been carefully hollowed out and filled with weapons that could destroy ships 10 times their size. The Galactic Fleet found themselves surrounded by enemies they could not see until it was too late. Admiral Corvin tried to retreat, but discovered that the asteroids behind his fleet were armed too. Every direction led to more hidden bases, more weapons, more death. His invasion force was trapped in a killing field that had been prepared for years. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Our intelligence said this was just a mining operation." "Admiral," his tactical officer reported with fear in his voice, "we're detecting at least 50 military installations throughout this asteroid field. They've been here for years. We've been flying straight into a trap. On the forest world of New Gangwon, the Galactic Army's 3rd Division was learning that trees could be deadly enemies. General Vosh had brought 10,000 soldiers to capture this human agricultural colony. Intelligence reported that only 300 humans lived here, growing food crops in the thick forests. The landing had gone perfectly. No human ships had tried to stop them. No defensive positions had fired on their transports. The humans seemed to have run away without a fight. General Vosh was already planning his victory celebration. Then the forest attacked. Young Mai had spent 12 years on New Gangwon disguised as a simple botanist studying plant growth. The local aliens knew her as a quiet scientist who loved working with trees and flowers. They had no idea that she had been slowly changing the genetic structure of every plant on their world. The trees that General Vosh's soldiers walked under suddenly came alive. Branches reached down like giant hands to grab alien soldiers. Roots burst from the ground to trip and trap anyone who tried to run. Plants that had looked harmless released clouds of poison gas when aliens came too close. "The forest is attacking us," screamed a soldier over the radio. "The trees are moving! The plants are alive!" Young Mi smiled as she watched from her hidden control center deep in the woods. She had programmed the plants to respond to specific chemical signals that only humans produced. The forest would protect any human who walked through it, but it would attack any alien invader with deadly force. General Vosh tried to burn the trees down, but even fire could not stop Young Mi's creations. The plants had been designed to regrow faster than they could be destroyed. Every bomb or flame just made the forest angry, and angry forests were very dangerous things. The most shocking discovery came when the Galactic Council tried to attack Earth itself. They had expected to find a primitive homeworld defended by simple weapons. Instead, they found something that changed their understanding of human technology completely. The solar research stations that scientist Jae-hoon had, positioned throughout Earth's solar system, looked harmless enough. Each station appeared to be studying the sun or collecting solar energy for peaceful purposes. The Galactic Fleet had passed by these stations dozens of times over the years without giving them a second thought. Now, as Admiral Thex's attack fleet approached Earth, the research stations revealed their true purpose. They were not studying the sun, they were controlling it. Jae-hoon activated his masterpiece from his command center on the moon. The solar stations moved into perfect alignment, creating a massive lens array that could focus the sun's energy with surgical precision. Beams of concentrated starlight reached across millions of miles to touch the Galactic Fleet. Ships did not just explode when hit by focused stellar energy, they simply ceased to exist, turned into basic particles and scattered across space. Admiral Thex watched half his fleet disappear in seconds, destroyed by weaponized sunlight. "Impossible," he whispered. "They've turned their star into a weapon. How do we fight a star?" Admiral Bo-Ra, revealed now as Earth's supreme commander, broadcast a message to every galactic ship and base across the galaxy. Her words reached alien commanders who were discovering that humans had been preparing for this war for decades. "Attention, galactic forces," Bo-Ra said calmly. "You declared war on a species that has been preparing for galactic conflict since before your grandparents were born. Every human you met, every peaceful settlement you allowed, every trade agreement you signed was part of a single coordinated strategy." She paused to let that sink in before continuing. "You thought you were fighting a young species that had gotten too bold. You were wrong. You have been living in our galaxy for 30 years. We just decided it was time to let you know." Reports flooded in from every corner of the galaxy. Human farmers were revealing terraforming technology that could reshape worlds. Human artists were activating communication networks that connected every human settlement. Human teachers were leading alien students in uprisings against their own governments. The Galactic Council had not declared war on humanity. They had declared war on an enemy that had been quietly surrounding them for 3 decades. An enemy that had been patient enough to wait for the perfect moment to reveal themselves. An enemy that had just started to show what humans could really do when they stopped pretending to be harmless. The Galactic Council had expected to fight humans the same way they fought every other species, fleet against fleet, planet against planet, until one side surrendered or died. They had done this for thousands of years and always won. But humans, it turned out, had their own ideas about how wars should be fought. On the diplomatic station orbiting Centauri Prime, Ambassador Hyun-woo was showing the galaxy something they had never seen before. Instead of meeting with government leaders and military commanders, he was talking directly to ordinary people. Every species had individuals who were tired of being ruled by the same powerful families for centuries. The cooking instructor Na Young, who had taught Zephyrian cuisine on their homeworld for 15 years, was not really just a chef. She had mapped every government building, learned the personal habits of every official, and made friends with thousands of common citizens. When Hyun-woo gave the signal, Na-young activated a network of contacts that reached into every level of Zephyrian society. "My friends," Na-young broadcast to secret receivers hidden throughout the planet, "the humans offer something your government never has. They offer you the choice to be free." The message was simple, but it changed everything. For the first time in their history, ordinary Zephyrians learned that there were alternatives to being ruled by the Crystal Throne. They learned that other species in the galaxy lived without kings or emperors telling them what to do. Within hours, protests began in every major city. The Zephyrian government tried to stop the demonstrations, but discovered that their own police and military had been listening to human broadcasts, too. Soldiers began putting down their weapons and joining the crowds instead of shooting at them. The artist Dong Min had spent 20 years creating beautiful sculptures for the Crystalline Empire's capital city. His artwork was displayed in government buildings, military headquarters, and the homes of the ruling class. Everyone loved Dong Min's sculptures because they were so lifelike and detailed. What the Crystalline Empire did not know was that each sculpture contained quantum transmitters that had been recording government communications for 2 decades. Every secret meeting, every military plan, every corrupt deal had been captured and stored. When the war began, Dongmin activated his network and broadcast 20 years of government secrets to every citizen in the empire. The people learned that their rulers had been stealing from them, lying to them, and treating them like property for generations. The revolution that followed was not led by humans. It was led by angry citizens who finally knew the truth about their own government. General Wu Jin commanded the human expeditionary force, but his soldiers fought like no army the galaxy had ever seen. Instead of conquering planets, they liberated them. Instead of destroying cities, they rebuilt them. Instead of enslaving populations, they offered them freedom. On the mining world of Copper 7, the human fleet arrived to find terrified alien workers expecting to be killed or enslaved. General Wu Jin surprised them by offering something completely different. "We are not here to conquer you," he announced to the gathered miners. "We are here to offer you a choice. You can continue working for masters who treat you like machines, or you can join us and work for yourselves." The miners could not believe what they were hearing. In their experience, armies came to take things, not to give them away. But the humans proved their words with actions. They destroyed the slave collars that had controlled the workers for decades. They gave the miners weapons to defend themselves. Most importantly, they gave them the knowledge and tools to run their own planet. Within a week, Copper 7 had gone from a slave world to a free republic. The miners elected their own leaders and sent representatives to join the growing alliance of liberated worlds. Engineer Hiejin's terraforming technology was changing the galaxy in ways no one had expected. While the galactic powers fought over control of existing worlds, humans were creating new ones. Dead planets became gardens. Poisoned worlds became clean again. Barren moons became homes for millions of people. The planet Ashland 3 had been stripped of all life by centuries of mining. Nothing could grow there, and the air was too toxic to breathe. The Galactic Council had written it off as worthless. But Hiejin saw potential where others saw only death. Her terraforming machines worked for 6 months, cleaning the air and soil while introducing specially designed plants and bacteria. When she was finished, Ashland 3 was more beautiful than it had ever been. Green forests covered rolling hills. Clean rivers flowed through fertile valleys. The sky was blue again for the first time in 300 years. This is what humans do, Hiejin explained to amazed alien observers. "We do not just take resources from dead worlds. We bring dead worlds back to life." The galactic hegemony tried to reclaim Ashland 3, but found that the original inhabitants had returned. These were the descendants of people who had been forced to leave when the mining began. They had spent centuries dreaming of home, and now humans had given it back to them. Dr. Inho had spent 20 years studying alien biology as a simple xenobiologist. Governments across the galaxy had welcomed him because he seemed harmless and curious. They let him examine their people, their animals, and their plants, because he appeared to be conducting pure research with no military value. They were wrong. Dr. Inho had been developing medical treatments specifically designed for each species he encountered. He understood alien biology better than most aliens understood themselves. When the war began, human field medics carried cures for diseases that had plagued alien species for millennia. On the battlefield moon of Kratos II, a hegemony medical officer could not believe what he was seeing. Human medics were treating wounded enemy soldiers with the same care they gave to their own people. They had medicines that could heal injuries in hours instead of weeks. They had techniques that could save lives that would have been lost. "Why? Are you helping our soldiers?" the alien doctor asked Dr. Inho as they worked together in a field hospital. "Because they are people," Dr. Inho replied simply. "The war is between governments, not between species. These soldiers did not choose to fight us. They were ordered to fight us. When the war is over, we will all need to live together." The alien doctor stared at the human in amazement. In his experience, enemies killed enemies. They did not heal them. But humans seemed to follow different rules. News of human medical aid spread quickly through the galactic forces. Soldiers began to wonder why they were fighting people who would risk their own lives to save enemy wounded. Desertion rates increased dramatically as alien troops realized they were fighting the wrong war against the wrong enemy. The strategy was working perfectly. Every world the humans conquered became a willing ally. Every battle they fought created more friends than enemies. Every act of kindness undermined the Galactic Council's claim that humans were dangerous monsters who needed to be destroyed. Ambassador Hyun-woo sent regular reports to Earth Command, documenting the collapse of the old galactic order. The Council based their power on keeping species afraid and divided, he wrote. We are showing the galaxy that cooperation is stronger than fear, and freedom is more powerful than force. The war that was supposed to destroy humanity was instead destroying the system that had kept the galaxy in chains for thousands of years. And the humans were just getting started. The war that Chancellor Vextar thought would last 3 months had been going on for 2 years, and everything was going wrong. Not just wrong, impossibly wrong. The Galactic Council was not losing battles to human fleets. They were losing entire star systems to something much more dangerous than weapons. They were losing them to ideas. Admiral Bo-Ra's fleet had just arrived at the edge of the hegemony's core systems, but she was not preparing for battle. Instead, she was broadcasting on every communication channel that existed. Her message was simple and reached every ship, every planet, every space station in the area. Attention all hegemony forces, she said calmly. Earth offers you a choice. Surrender your ships and join the Free Galaxy Alliance, or continue fighting for leaders who see you as property. If you choose freedom, you will be welcomed as equals. If you choose slavery, you will be defeated as enemies. The response was immediate and shocking. Ship after ship in the hegemony fleet began broadcasting their surrender. Not because they were afraid of human weapons, but because they were tired of fighting for a system that had never cared about them. Captain Zector of the battleship Dominion was the first to respond. Human fleet, this is Captain Zector. My crew votes to join your alliance. We are tired of fighting wars for rich politicians who send us to die while they stay safe at home. Within hours, 3/4 of the hegemony fleet had joined the, humans. The remaining ships found themselves outnumbered by their own former allies. Admiral Bo-Ra had won the largest space battle in galactic history without firing a single shot. But the real victory was happening on planets across the galaxy, in the homes and schools where the next generation was growing up. The children were the key to everything, and humanity had been planning for them from the very beginning. Dr. Hana worked at a school on the trade world of Commerce 5, teaching alien children about human culture and Earth history. To their parents, she was just an exchange teacher, helping students learn about different species. The parents had no idea that their children were learning about concepts like democracy, individual rights, and personal freedom. 10-year-old Crix was a young Zephyrian whose parents worked for the government. He came home from school one day and asked his father a simple question. Papa, why does our king get to decide everything for everyone? Why do we not get to choose our own leaders? His father had no good answer. No one in Zephyrian history had ever asked that question before. But once it was asked, it could not be unasked. Crix's questions spread to other children, then to their parents, then to entire communities. The same thing was happening on hundreds of worlds. Human teachers had not told alien children to rebel against their governments. They had simply taught them to think for themselves. The results were revolutionary. On the warrior world of Sparta 7, a young soldier named Vex asked his commander why they were fighting humans who had never attacked their planet. On the merchant world of Trade Central, a shop owner named Zara asked why all the profits from her hard work went to nobles who did nothing. On the factory moon of Industry 3, workers asked why they lived in poverty while their owners lived in luxury. These questions had no good answers, because the system they lived under was not designed to be fair or logical. It was designed to keep the powerful in power. But once people started asking questions, the whole system began to fall apart. Ambassador Hyun-woo sat in what used to be the Galactic Council chambers on Nexus Prime. The crystal chamber was empty now, except for a few stubborn holdouts who still believed they could maintain their old system. Most of the former council members had already joined the negotiations for what everyone was calling the New Galactic Republic. Chancellor Vexitar was one of the few who remained. The old lizard looked tired and defeated as he faced the human ambassador across the empty chamber. "What do you want from us?" Vexitar asked. "You have destroyed our fleets, turned our own people against us, and made our children question everything we taught them. What more can you take?" Hyunwoo looked at the former chancellor with something that might have been pity. We do not want to take anything from you, Chancellor. We want to give you something. The chance to be part of something better. Better? Vextar laughed bitterly. You have torn apart a galactic civilization that lasted for 10,000 years. We have torn apart a galactic prison, Hyunwoo corrected gently. Your civilization was built on keeping billions of people afraid, poor, and powerless. You called it order, but we call it slavery. He stood and walked to the great window that looked out over the city below. Ships from dozens of different species flew together in the sky, their crews working as equals instead of masters and servants. Look outside, Chancellor. Your people are not suffering. They are celebrating. For the first time in their lives, they get to choose their own destiny. They get to work for themselves instead of for distant nobles. They get to speak freely without fear of punishment. Vextar joined him at the window and saw what Hyunwoo meant. The city below was more alive and vibrant than it had been in centuries. Different species walked together as friends instead of avoiding each other out of fear. Children played in parks that had once been restricted to the ruling class. How did you know? Vextar asked quietly. How did you know that this would work? Hyunwoo smiled the same calm smile he had worn when the Council first declared war on Earth. Because we tried both systems, Chancellor. Earth spent thousands of years with kings and emperors and nobles ruling over common people. We learned that freedom works better than slavery, cooperation works better than force, and hope works better than fear. The final truth was revealed in the historical records that Dr. Minho had been compiling throughout the war. He was Earth's chief historian, and his job was to document everything that had happened so that future generations would understand. The Galactic Council made one crucial mistake, Dr. Minho wrote in his final report. They assumed that humans were trying to join their civilization. They never realized that we were building a replacement for it. The records showed the full scope of humanity's plan. Every human who had left Earth in the past 30 years had been part of a single coordinated strategy. They were not refugees seeking new homes or explorers looking for adventure. They were gardeners, planting seeds of freedom in a galaxy that had forgotten what freedom meant. The plan had never been to conquer the galaxy by force. The plan had been to show the galaxy that there was a better way to live. Once people saw that better way, they chose it freely. Former Chancellor Vextar, now living quietly in voluntary exile, wrote the final entry in the historical record of the old galactic order. We thought we were declaring war on a primitive species. Instead, we discovered that we had been living in their garden all along, and they had finally decided it was time for us to grow up. The galaxy had smiled back at Earth, and humanity had welcomed them home to a place where all beings could live as equals under the stars they all shared. The war was over. The real peace was just beginning.